And we are live. What's up? Welcome to another Unleash You Now presentation. Your story is your power. I feel very lucky today. I'm sitting in with a guy that I've seen do backyard American Ninja Warrior, right? Right, which I love. So I can't tell you the countless hours that I spent watching Ninja Warrior, American Ninja Warrior, and before. But let me give you a little bit of bio of Spencer Jones, the man, the myth, the legend that is sitting here with me today.
Wow.
Yesterday, I was blessed to be on his show, and I said the only way I'd go on that is if he would be, if I was lucky enough to get him on ours. So we did a little tit for tat, and he's here. So let me tell you a little bit about Spencer. This is a little short bio, just so you know. So be ready. Spencer is an avid outdoorsman, athlete, teacher, speaker, lifestyle fitness coach who loves to help people chase their passions to the max. After losing over 30 pounds and regaining his confidence, not only physically, but mentally, he was compelled to help others go after their goals and gain similar confidence of their own. Spencer loves to push himself, has participated and placed in a variety of races, including 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, ranger relays, triathlons, half Ironmans. You could definitely call him a tough mudder. He is a classically trained pianist and singer who was a middle and high school choir director for 9 years, teaching in the classroom, gave Spencer the tools and experiences to individualize instruction based on specific needs, clear communication, relationship, and community building, creating and hosting events. While his teaching shifted from the classroom to the stage, having a classroom background enhances his coaching, speaking, and ability to connect with his audience. Spencer is the host of Jonesin for Show, a vlog podcast, a blog designed to help people chase their passions to the max. He has written 3 books, 2 about kayak fishing, which is awesome, traveling, and another about chasing your passions. Like, let me have them handy. That's beautiful. He has been published in multiple magazines and websites, hosted a live healthy cooking show, nice, and created and hosted an outdoor mini-series. What hasn't he done outside? On his downtime, Spencer loves to spend time with his wife, Katie, relax at home with his dogs and cats, and have incredible experiences traveling. Booyah,
Dude, you chose a short bio. I mean, that was amazing. Great short bio. I'm so glad you wrote that.
Ever. Let's go. You know, if you have that long a bio, you have done some things.
It's hard to condense it all down. It's so fun to just live life and do things that you're interested in and fully explore it, and then, see where that leads you, and then try something else.
Bro, that was amazing. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for having me here, brother. I appreciate it. It was great to have you on my show, the Jones and 4 show yesterday. That was so much fun. We had a great chat. Sadly, it was only an hour, so I'm excited for today's one. And folks, we have no clue how long this is going to go. Michael told me we're just going to talk about stories and share stories, and we can help people, inspire people, blah, blah, blah. And, it's going to be definitely over an hour. So you might, get some popcorn, get a cup of coffee. I got my coffee. I'm set. Let's rock and roll for an amazing chat and hopefully help you guys, live your life to the max.
Right. So, brother, I absolutely love what you're about. I love your message. Right. I said before we got to this point, I stalked you. Right.
Yep. Like I stalked you too. Don't worry.
There you go. Like any person of 2020 does with the capabilities we have with social media. I did good stalking. I watched you at different places doing American Ninja style warrior workouts, right? And exercises. And I'm like, holy crap. And then I see you have one like in your backyard. I'm like, holy crap, right? Like, and the whole time I'm like, dude, I could probably do some of this stuff. And then I see like it's your backyard and you train like that daily, and you miss the you miss the idea of like the work that goes in to being able to do something like that at that level, right? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people like me that sit there and watch the show at home, and like when they're jumping back and forth from pads, they're like, come on, dude, you can't just jump back and forth from right? Like it's that simple. You just can't climb the netting, right? And it's totally like underappreciating and undervaluing the amount of pressure, stress, and also the toll it takes on the body going through that course So even though it looks like the easy net,
Brutal.
after I did those other 6 exercises, going up a simple net now is like trying to figure out how to eat with no hands, right? Like it's tough.
Dude,
Right. So
it's so crazy. Like I'm like you. I love watching American Ninja Warrior and Titan games and seeing those challenges that people go through. And I'm a big Tony Horton fan, creator of P90X, and so he has a ninja course in his backyard, and that's what inspired me watching American Ninja Warrior and him. I'm going, well, crap. I mean, I can make one of those for my backyard. So I designed up a plan not this past Christmas, but Christmas before that, over my winter break, designed up the plan as soon as it thawed. I lived up here in Wisconsin. So after it thawed out, snow melted, boom, that course was built in 6 days. I had it all done from scratch to completion, 6 days. And yeah, it owned me. Like I failed so many times on that thing. At first, the pegboard, I couldn't even do a single peg. And then, now I'm able to go up and down the board. I have a couple different routes where I go up the board and cross like rock holds and stuff like that. But it takes time, it takes effort. And you said it's that daily effort. I mean, I probably go out there twice a week to just challenge myself and push myself along with the other workouts that I do. And it's just learning and growing, like everything in life, right? You push yourself to failure, then you learn and grow and get stronger.
All right. So you have such an interesting bio, right? And so much in so different areas. Got to give
so many different things. I'm a Renaissance man, all over.
You are. I got to give up to Chris Sly, who jumped in the room real quick, jumped in the chat, and just said hello.
Hey, bud.
So you have this interesting bio, right? And you know how to play music, and you taught, right? And sing, and you taught it, right? And it's like you go around. You wrote books about kayak fishing, right? And you get to travel around and do kayak fishing in different times, and get paid to do so most of the time, right? Like, so you have such interesting stories, right? And like interesting, the journey is so interesting, and when you hear it from a bio perspective, because it's so all over the place, right? It's very few times, like my bio is all over the place, and very few times I run into people that have bios like that where they're all over, because normally it's like they figured out this was kind of their focus. They went down this road. Maybe it didn't work out quite, but you see how it transformed into something else, right? And then that was their journey in life, and that's really what they were meant for, or their purpose as they seem it. But yours is like, hey, I was here and I was playing the piano, and I'm professionally trained and like classically trained, and then then I was over here teaching choir, and it's like I'm a trained speaker, I'm a speaker and a singer, and it's just like, oh my God, right? Like, and it's so unique. So before like looking at all that, it's like, wow, right? So I want to try to break this down a little bit. And I love part of your talk, your bio. It was all great. Don't remember, like my favorite part was when you said, I went from 30 pounds overweight to back into the shape I wanted to be and to gain the confidence I wanted. You talked about what you're really seeking was the feeling, right? And not necessarily being able to flex, right?
Exactly.
Chris, I said 2 Renaissance men. That's how I describe Michael.
Nice. Yeah. The Renaissance Man. See, we'll create our own show, the Renaissance Man podcast show. There we go.
Look, there. I think Sly wanted an appearance on the show. So there he is. 2 Renaissance men. That's how I describe Michael. All right. Boom. So, all right. Good job, man. Anybody feel free to put your comments in. We'll have any questions, concerns, anything, comments, put them in. We'll gladly show and talk about it when it happens as well.
Heck yeah.
So how does this journey happen, right? Like, how did this person come to be, right? The transformation of you, Spencer Jones.
So it's like everyone, right? It's this long, winding road, I guess you could say. So let's start at the beginning real quick. Well, I was born, and then next day,
all right,
yeah, got that covered. Okay, so I got interested. I was always an outdoorsy kid. I grew up in the country. We were outside a lot, having fun, and just being an outdoors kid in the '90s and loving life. And so then I got interested in music with playing piano and oboe and did all that stuff. And when it was time to go to college, I thought, all right, well, I love movies and I love music and I like to compose music for movies. So that's what I started to do. I started to go to school for that. And then in my second year of college, I met my wife and started dating her. And her dad said, if you want to marry my daughter, after I asked, you need to actually have insurance for this. So you need a real job. And so I'm like, okay, my wife was going to be a teacher. And I'm like, well, let's look at music teaching, right? It's kind of the same alley. Let's look at that. And so I did, fell in love with teaching, right? And because of school, college, my outdoorsy side, camping, fishing stuff kind of just waned off because my focus was on music and teaching at that time. So I was in college, loved teaching, loved doing that. Piano's my main instrument. I played oboe for 8 years, and then I started singing in college, and it shifted to where I really love teaching choir, right? So I taught middle school and high school choir for 9 years after I graduated, and really loved that aspect, which we'll get to in a second. So did college, great, graduated, and then the summer after college, right? We have summer jobs. Most people do when they're in college or schools, right? They have their summer jobs. And well, I used to work for Pepsi, which was a cool job, loved it. And then the summer after I graduated, they weren't hiring anymore. And I could not find a summer job for a long time, right? And what happened was, well, I was bored senseless. We didn't have a ton of money because I wasn't working, only my wife was. And so what did I do? Well, I had an old fishing rod down in the basement. I'm like, well, let's go. I'll get a cheap fishing license and I'll go fishing. Boom, addiction restarted all over again. And that led me to fishing when we were at a vacation at her parents' vacation house. And I saw this guy bring a kayak down to the water. I'm like, holy cow, that's awesome. So cool. So then I started doing research, ended up that January, because who doesn't do it in the dead of winter, bought a kayak and got all that stuff. And then now it's been 8 years now of kayak fishing and doing all that stuff. I've been all over the country kayak fishing, filming my mini series to inspire other people to check out our amazing waterways. I fish for sailfish in Florida out of our kayaks. So fish that's 6, 8 to 8 feet long out of a 12-foot, 13-foot kayak. That's just a blast and a half fishing for them. I've been all over, caught a 7-foot sturgeon out of kayaks, and just a lot of fun going over chasing those passions. So that's how the kayak fishing side started, with the weight loss and things like that. So my wife and I got married after, make sure I get this right, our third year of college. We only dated for like a year and a couple months before we got married. So throughout the time we transferred to another college, we both hated it. I gained a ton of weight. Like I gained probably 40 pounds, I think, when I was there. Sucked. And we got married. Yay, got married. But I hated the way my body looked, the way I felt. I felt lethargic. I felt tired. I just hated feeling sick and tired all the time. And so then I got a job at the YMCA at that time. This was before the Pepsi gig started. And we had free membership to the Y then because I worked there. So I worked my butt off that summer and I lost 30 pounds. So sweet. I felt awesome. I was rocking, felt good, happy with my body. And then school started again. My workout stopped. And over the next how many years, I started gaining weight. And here's where it all comes into play. First year teaching, fine. That summer, it was a really big summer into kayak fishing, getting into it. And then the year after that, I noticed, it was getting harder for me to put my kayak on top of my car. I had a Prius, still have a Prius, and it was hard for me to put the kayak on top. And I'm like, this is ridiculous, right? I can't enjoy my passion as much as I want. I can't paddle as far without getting winded. I can't load it as well. And just all these things because I wasn't physically fit enough to really do it easily. Yeah, I could have bought a truck. Yeah, I could have got a trailer, but I'm cheap. And so I don't want to do that, but I could take care of myself. So it was right at Christmas time. I decided I'm going to change this. December 26th of 2012, I said, 2013. I said, nope, let's change it. And from that day on, I started working out, getting fit, and lost 30 pounds, and then ended up being 40 pounds total throughout those years of getting fit. That led me to coaching and helping other people through Beachbody and stuff like that, which was cool. And that just led me to realize, I'm a teacher. Like I think, and especially now as I've grown, because the working out has led me to love yoga along with the fitness aspect. So to love yoga, love meditation and learning and getting to know about that. But as I learned about all that, I got to learn about myself so much. And I've discovered that I'm a teacher. Like my spirit, my energy is a teacher. I want to help people. And so when I got into teaching music, middle school and high school choir, I loved it because it was music. About my 8th year in, I started 8th and 9th year, I started realizing, I love this, but I'm not getting that same spark I used to. I get that spark from working with people one-on-one. As for me, I love seeing the aha moment when kids, they didn't realize something or they struggle with something and then it clicks and you're like, the world's open, right? The universe makes sense. I love those. I love helping people get those moments and seeing those. So I just transferred it from the school, the classroom setting, then to the individual setting, to the stage setting. So my hope and goals on stage is to help people get those aha moments, to help them when I'm coaching, to help them get those aha moments, and to help them essentially live their life to the max, right? So what I do now is I help people design their lives and their lifestyles to fit whatever their goals are, right? So they can do what they love to do for as long as possible. And so that's kind of how it all kind of integrated into one. So that includes my passions of kayak fishing, because that's how I got started, and outdoors camping and hiking and all that craziness, to teaching in the classroom and being a piano teacher. And I can relate to music and how the forms work and all that stuff to life, and just different ways to connect with people. I've built huge events for people where we had choirs compete for thousands of dollars, and just every little bit of that to events here at my house where I help people challenge themselves and grow themselves personally and physically. It's a really long story. So there you go.
No, I like it. That's awesome. It kind of shows the transformation of you in certain things. So now, on one of the things with your story, your power, what we do here, right, is we get real, right? So at the end, we always say, like, our goal in the show is to laugh, to cry, to think, so we can transform.
Love it.
Right? So we're going to try to do all those things with you, right? We're going to try to laugh. We're going to try to cry. We're going to try to think, so we can transform. All right? So you talk about this amazing journey where you came in with this one thought, and then you switched because of love, really. You switched because of loving your wife and being able to marry her and follow her father's wishes.
Right.
So you get the yes, right? So you change your lifestyle to go towards what that would be, which is awesome. I get it. And then after doing that, you realize, hold up, like, this might not be exactly what my heart screams I should do. I might not be totally alive. See, I was like that. I coached basketball for a long time in school systems, and at one point I was like, you know what? I'll just get in the school system and work, and because it's easy, right? Like,
right.
You get that easy check. You're working for the state, right? So you get retirement, right? Like, it makes sense on paper.
Right.
And it took me away from my businesses, which I didn't love. And then also there's a lot of red tape, almost like, do you call it politics in school systems, which was not for me, right? Like, that's why I say, like, I don't really do politics, because it's not for me, because
same.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost like it's like blind following rather than being, like, real and objective, and no one's perfect. Like, I don't even agree with myself all the time. So I'm supposed to agree with an R or a D all the time. Like, I don't understand. Right. So, but I see your story, and then it unfolds, and then you become where you realize that you love these outdoor activities. So, but then you need to be in the shape to actually truly enjoy that and do it to the level in which you want. All right. So there's so much good. So it's so many places to start, but I want to start here, right? What was the hardest time for Spencer Jones? What was the hardest time for you? Like, where was life straight, just on? Because your story sounds so high, right? That I don't want people to miss that you had to fight to get it.
So great questions. And I'll address that one real quick. And you say that, I was teaching and it wasn't necessarily my passion, and then I shifted over. And I would actually disagree with that. I think I've discovered that teaching was my passion, and in the classroom, and I loved it, and I invested everything I had into it. It was everything. It was my heart and soul, my joy. But then over time, like happens, I think, with most people, it shifts a little bit and it changes. And instead of sticking with it and then resenting it or not appreciating and liking as much and not having as much impact as I could, I shifted over to where I believe it's pointing now and all that. So, so it's shifting, and you need to be aware of that shift. So let's answer your question of the hardest time, right? The hardest time could be you could think of how I felt, right? How I felt being unhealthy, how I felt like I wasn't enough, being able to do that. And yes, those were tough. Yes, you had to go through challenges to get past that, to get fit, to be able to do what I love to do. But to be real, right? To be totally real with y'all, the toughest challenge was actually this past year for me. I messed up huge, right? I made this huge mistake in my life that could cost me more than I could have imagined, right? And I just was pigheaded. I was egotistical, blinded, whatever. And I messed up. I truly messed up. So much so where that, I wasn't sure what I should be doing anymore with my life. I love coaching. I like teaching. And I was already thinking at this point of transitioning out of teaching into in the classroom to the stage. But like, this was catastrophic for me. It as I describe it, it shattered my walls, right? We all have who we are. And then we have these walls of that we have up so people can't see inside you and they don't see your true self. A lot of us have these walls up, and there's very few people who don't. And I built up these walls, and so much so that I believed in these walls, and I identified with them, right? And then this thing happened where I messed up, and it was like taking a wrecking ball and shattering, demolishing the walls where I was this little insignificant Spencer who felt like crap, who felt small, tiny, worthless, where suicide was an option. Like I was seriously contemplating killing myself in multiple ways. And I had 2 ways, and I was fairly close to doing it. And I told my wife about it, and she made me promise that I wouldn't. And it was still hard, right? The only way I got through it was time, but meditating, seeing a therapist helped a ton, just to help guide me and give me the right tools that I needed to help pull myself out of that, to realize, okay, yeah, you messed up, right? You're human. Everybody messes up in life, but you can learn from it, you can grow from it, and you can improve your life, right? Take what you did, don't mess up again, but you can learn from that situation to keep going. And I knew those things. I taught those things to people. But when it comes to yourself and mistakes that you made in your life that where you're shattered and you feel tiny, and like where I could break down in tears at any second just from the sheer thought of it, that to now where I can talk to you about it, I'm not breaking down in tears, but man, it's real. Like I feel that pain. I hate myself at points, and I've learned now to not hate myself nearly as much. I'm working on the forgiveness aspect of myself. Some days I do really well. Some days are tougher than others, and I'm learning to love myself and then share that out with people, because we all go through things. We all go through low points and high points in our life, but that was my low point. I'm picking myself back up, and I've picked myself back up, and I keep going up and up and up. And my hope is to help other people know that, you're not alone. You have people here to help you. And there are tools and things to do to make sure that you can be your best self for you, your real authentic self, and the people you love in your life and want to be there for.
Good, thank you for saying that. Kelly says, been there, building walls for protection. So glad you found your way out, Spencer. She said that to you. So I wanted to make sure you heard that. And Jason said, just checking in. What's up, Jason?
Jason. All right, can I say a quick thing to Kelly quick?
Yeah.
So Kelly, thank you so much. It's hard because you build up these walls, and I've had these walls up for years, and I kept building them, right? And so much so we identified with them that when you get something that smashes them, it scares the living crap out of you, because all of a sudden you have these things you identified with that aren't there. And you realize once you take like a real, true, authentic look at yourself that they're just fronts. They're just things that you put up, facades you put up to hide who you really are. Why are you doing that? And that was scary. It was scary to look inside you and do that. So hopefully you're not in that case or that scenario, but I think we all are to some degree. But take a look at yourself. And some walls are there for your protection. Totally, I get it. But you need to know what they are and what their purpose is, and be able to make sure you are in control of it, that they're not controlling you. But I appreciate it. I hope you are doing well with everything that you have. So cool. Thanks.
All right. She said masks. Yeah, you have masks. All right. So it's funny you talk about walls. I did a lot I was a big component of walls and masks and a lot of, and you know what's crazy is like, for me at least, no longer was I building walls, I was reinforcing them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I would do things and I would see things, even my perspectives of things, like the way I view the framework, right? Like, you know, I said something, you changed the framework last time. And it's the framework in which you view something, right? And I would take everything I was viewing to prove my point, right? Like to reinforce my wall.
Right.
So it made it so true to me. All the evidence showed it, right? Everything that was in my reality, everything in my perception was that it was backing my wall. So I was creating these walls of like indestruction. They could not be taken down. And the problem is when you build those walls that hard, something small isn't going to take them down.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you build your walls like that, only something huge is going to take them down.
Exactly.
And right, and we talked yesterday on your show about how I believe universe, life, God, whatever you want to call it, dirt tree, whatever you want to call it, right? Cosmic winds, right?
Right.
Whatever you want to call it, it works in a favor where it keeps sending you little messages, right? It's going to send you little pieces being like, hey, pay attention. Hey, pay attention. Hey, pay attention. Right? And if you ignore them, God, universe, wind, right, dirt tree, will make it get louder and louder until it's either you have to acknowledge it, right? And I used to spend so much time trying to avoid those and ignore those moments where you're like, hold up, because that wouldn't reinforce my wall.
Exactly.
So then, and I told you my story was 2011 was when my wall got destroyed, and I realized everything I built was fake, right? Like not the businesses, not the material stuff. And the material stuff, when you really get down to it, means very little.
Yeah.
It's what now, like having a car is cool. I understand, because it's not just having a car is cool. It's because it gives you the opportunity to go places, create moments, create memories, right? Have experiences. It's all too often we look at the thing and not what the thing provides. It's really what we're seeking. So if there's other ways to provide that, we would still get the same thing we want out of it. So
100%.
All right. So now, did you see yourself like reinforcing these walls? Did you see yourself no longer building them taller, but also stronger? Right.
Totally.
And then when it all came down, right? Like when the walls come down, it's one of the most vulnerable moments. Right. Like I always say, it's like how I describe it. It's like picture walking through a crowded New York City street dressed, and all of a sudden your clothes get pulled off you. Right. Like no time to prepare, nothing. Because normally it's a sudden and it's on. So, and your initial instinct's like, oh my, right. Like cover up, right. Because you're exposed.
Right.
That way you're exposed skin wise, but this way you're exposed for not being what you were hoping you were or portrayed you were, or right. Like, or the image in which you tried to have. So, and I think that moment happens for so many of us. Right.
Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, I hope it doesn't happen for people, but then again, it happens to so many of us, and there's such, you can learn and grow so much from it that it's huge, but you have to be able to see it and do it that way, and be able to be strong enough, to be frank about it, strong enough to actually not let it take you down to where you're living in the mud your whole life.
It's like, so I used to, when everything first happened with me, I said, I wouldn't wish this feeling on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
All right. When it all happened to me. But now from that, the strength that can come from that, right. The almost like rebirth after it, right.
Yeah.
After it's like, I say after you go through the stages of loss, cause it's a loss. Right.
Yeah.
Like you lost your identity. You lost who you thought you were. Like you go through the stages of grief. Right. Like, and it sucks. Right. And it absolutely sucks.
It's horrible.
Right. But it's like being forged by the fire.
Yeah.
It's like, now I'm so open. Right. Like now I'll be very candid in conversations about things I've done, experiences I've been. I mean, there's guys that I've been cool with for a long time. They're really cool. There's guys that were part of UnleashU Now that aren't. And like, I'll be very open about like, hey, this is what I was doing. This is why I was doing it. You might not have liked that, and we should have that conversation because I respect you, and I value you. But it's like, this is why this is happening. Before this happened, before that smashing happened, I didn't think I ever had to say something like that. I didn't think I ever had to be open about, hey, this is why this broke down, right? Like, this is why this happened. Like, there's a dude that was part of us that is, I think, still a cool dude. His name's Cam Manny. He popped in and out of the show a couple times, right? And he's a cool dude. And there was friction with us, and we still didn't get it quite worked out all the way yet. But it's like, with me, it's like, everything's not going to be perfect.
Right.
And I used to, when it wasn't perfect, be like, F it. If it wasn't perfect, it wasn't going the way I want, that I thought it should go, or I wanted it to go, or I saw it,
right.
I'd be done with it. Right? Like, because if you didn't fit that world, you're out of that world.
Right.
Right.
And for me, like, you asked if I reinforced those walls. I totally did. I reinforced those and added extra masks on and made it stronger throughout what I see. And I know that for me, myself, and I believe other people, like, we see what we see, and that's our own perspective. We kind of talked about that yesterday, right? Like, of this conversation, I'm viewing it a certain way. I have a certain belief and remembrance. You do, the people viewing do, you know, Kelly and Chris and everyone, and that they have their own view of it. And so that fits our narrative. We see what fits our narrative. But you need, if you want to grow and you want to make sure that you're doing the best thing for you and the world and the people you care about, you need to be open to whatever the universe is saying to you and be open to receive it. It doesn't mean you'll like it, but a lot of time it's going to be okay, especially if you're constantly just checking in. What's the universe telling me? What's it sharing with me? And for years, probably like you, for years, I ignored it. I ignored what the universe was telling me. And I just made it my own thing, you know, reworded it, rephrased it, whatever, to fit my own walls, my own mindset that I thought I had, my own persona that I thought I had. So much so where, you know, I essentially lost 2 jobs or whatever. I didn't necessarily lose them, but stopped working different jobs because of those beliefs. And now when I look back on it, I'm going, wow, I was one was precedented. The other one, I was a total, you know, dick for it, right? I totally messed up. I shouldn't have looked at it that way. Was I totally off base? No, but I was definitely off base enough because of how I viewed things, right? And that the walls I built up, and if I listened to the universe and where it was leading me and giving me hints and showing me, nope, this is where you just need to course correct, man, I wouldn't have had it. I wouldn't have had that huge incident, which sucks, but I'm also grateful for it because there's so many good things that have come from it. So it's like a catch-22. Like, yeah, I don't want this. And I thought people who said they had it, I believed them and like, oh, that's cool and good for you. And I thought I kind of maybe had my own thing, but not until you have it, you're like, oh, yeah, I got it now. That makes sense.
Right. And one of the biggest things for me was realizing that how I was seeing it, how I created that picture was one view.
Only one.
Right. So 1D picture. Right. If I listen to someone else's perspective of it, their view, right, I add another dimension to it.
Exactly.
Right. So before I was so worried about being right. Right. That was my thing. That's why I always talk about this. And I use this phrase because it was me. I was worried about being right. I was not worried about getting it right. Right. And they're 2 very different things. So by my perspective, if I just looked at it that way, I was right. And that's what I wanted, because I didn't have the self-esteem and the self-worth to be wrong. Right. I didn't have the confidence. I couldn't be wrong. Right. So then I started where what happened was I would let other people's, then I would seek out other people's perspective.
Yep.
And I might not agree with every aspect of their perspective, 100%. Right. I don't agree with every aspect of my own perspective. Right. But it's like, but when I had that, I had another dimension of the story.
Right.
I had another view. Right. And then when I got another perspective, someone that was just watching it, or someone that had, got to see both happening, I got another dimension. I got another point of view. Right. So when it started adding up, right, you got to start seeing the story. You got to start seeing the view from the whole, right? So you could see where you went that maybe you shouldn't have, right? Or where you could have worded something different, or an action been different, or where you wronged someone, where you can say, hey, I'm so sorry you took it that way. I didn't intend it that way, and it's my fault. I should have worded it differently so you wouldn't have took it that way, because I could have, right? And then it's like that last part is that ownership part.
Exactly.
Right. And that ownership part, that was the last part for me, right? And the hardest part. And I think, and that's when I changed like the definition of maturity. To me, the definition of maturity now is how much of your shit can you own? The more you can own, the more mature you are, right? And it's very simple. How much? Because I know people that are older that aren't very mature. It's everybody else's fault, right? It's the government's fault. It's the economic fault. It's China's fault. It's Italy's fault. It's everyone. It's the neighbor's fault, right? Like there's a million people's fault it is, right? Like a good friend of mine recently went through some things, and when they came out, they were like, well, listen, they came, and I was in the mental health field for a while, so I'm very tough on the mental health field just because I was in it. And they're like, hey, I talked to someone, and they said, well, this person's doing this to me, and this person's doing, and I said, what? And you were like, yeah, that's what they said. And I said, the person you saw, we're talking about other people they never met. Yeah. I said, that's silly. Like no one ever should do that, because their deal isn't these other people. These other people didn't do anything other than live their life. How you took what they did is on you. Right. Exactly. And that's about owning it. And my thing is, that's fine. Like there's people that can ruffle my feathers. Right. Right. There's people that I don't necessarily enjoy being around as much. Right?
Yeah. We all have those people.
Right. And that's me. So then it's my choice if I go around them or not. But going around them, I know what I open myself up to.
Exactly. Right? Dude. I mean, I love your definition of maturity. It's about taking ownership in your life, right? Of the situations you put yourself in, of what you're going after, and just being honest, right? Own up to the crap that you've done, be real about it, apologize for it, and ask forgiveness and and a lot of it is forgiving yourself for it, right? So that you can actually press on, because if you're always knocking yourself and beating yourself up for it, that's not going to do you a lick of good later on. It's just going to fuel the negative side of your life. So you have to work on that forgiveness. And I'll touch on what you said about ownership of the people you put yourself around. Well, I tell my clients and family and friends, like, you know what, you are in control of your day. Like, I want you to have an awesome day, but people, like you said, blame other people. Well, I can't, right? The government's this. Oh, the COVID-19 stuff. Oh, my kids are crazy. Whatever, work this, blah, 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 blame this, blame that. Well, you know what? Okay, so that stuff happened. Who cares? That's out of your realm of control as far as dealing with that, but you don't have to let it control you. You are in control of yourself. You need to take ownership of that yourself. So let's just take COVID for a quick instance. So, okay, how much exposure of that are you taking to the media? Well, you can limit your media exposure to it, right? You don't have to be watching the news. You don't have to be reading the newspaper or going on social media and engaging in those comments or whatever. That is up to you. You are in control of your own day, of your own week, of how it goes. Sure, stuff might happen. You might get negative news. You might get bad news in your day, but it's how you deal with it, how you process and work through that information, right? If someone's a total jerk to you and that just pisses you off and then you're done for the day, like, I'm just pissed off the rest of the day. That person was a total asshole. I'm not going to work with them, whatever. And then I'm just pissed the rest of the day, right? Raise your hand if you've been there. Many times that it's like, no, now I can go, no, you know what? Yeah, sure, they were a jerk, but I don't need to let that energy influence mine. I don't need to let that worry me, because I'm better than I know where I'm going. Sure, I hope they have a better day, but good. They blew off some steam, whatever. I'm in control of letting it influence me. Knowing that you are in control of your emotions, your attitude, and other people's energy, how it influences you, is huge, but you have to be aware of it and you have to take ownership over it.
Dang right. I love that, right? And one of the things you said that really hit is you're in control of your feelings.
You are,
right?
100%.
And this is right, and this is kind of where I go with this, right? Like, I'm not at the point yet where I can not feel something, right? Like, you do something, I'll be like, I didn't feel it, right?
But that's not taking ownership over it, though, right? Like, then you're just ignoring it. You're just pushing it off, right?
Right. I'm saying like it doesn't exist.
Right. But it did exist.
My thing is, right, 100%. And my thing is, it's not, it's good to feel the feels.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
My thing is I control how long I feel the feels. Like I control how long it resides in me.
Exactly.
And that's when I started controlling that, where it was like disappointment. Especially in business, because I'm so passionate about what we do, right? And I'm one of those. I know I'm an owner, but I'm also like an operator, right? Because I'm a creator, which is horrible because I love to create. And when you create something, it's like you created a masterpiece. You created your baby, like you created something that matters to you. And you're like, I know the impact this can have on people. I just want people to have this because it'll help, right? And then when you're going through after the creation process, you're going through like the launching process and marketing process and selling process, which for creators is not fun.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Like the selling process is not fun. Right. Because you're like, oh my God, just take it. I don't even want to sell it to you. Just take it. Right.
Right.
And I mean, you never do that. And so you're welcome. So
Thanks.
right. So I used to get so like beat up because I'm like, I just want people to get this. Like, I just want to help. I just want to create impact. Right. But I also have to think, all right, there's other people that are riding on this, that are provided by this, that the more we do, the more impact we can make. Right. It's like it's money changed me when I stopped looking at money as like a thing and I started looking at money as an exchange policy. And the more I have, right, the more I can exchange it for what I want it for. And that's to impact people, to create moments, experiences, and transformation for people and myself. Right. Like that is what I want that for. Right. It's so when that shift happened for me, it became much easier to be also business centered and not just creation centered for impact. Right. So, and I had to own where if something didn't go my way, rather than taking 3 days, right, like, or I have buddies where it's like, dude, I got bad news today. Like, don't even talk to me till tomorrow. I'm just like, bro, you got 10 minutes of bad news is going to take a day from you. Like, yeah, I don't know how many days you got left. Like, so it's to my thing is like controlling. I think when people say like you own your feelings, I think people think, well, what I'm not supposed to feel. And I'm like, no, you're supposed to feel. But how long you let that feeling control you is on you. How long you let that dictate your day is on you. Davis says, I always tell people to have a great day on purpose. Having a great day on purpose means that you're taking control of how you will allow yourself to feel about yourself and your day.
Dude, that is awesome. Dave, right? Dave?
Yeah. No,
Dave. Oh, Davis. Sorry.
Davis.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that you say it that way, right? You have a great day on purpose. It is totally under your control how you have that day and how you make that day happen, which is huge. I'm going to butcher a really quick story for you. So we'll see how it goes. This is told to me from one of my mentors. We were talking, it's actually about music, but ended up being more about philosophy and life and all that stuff. So I'll butcher his story for you. There was a monk who had a toothache, and maybe you guys know this story and you could actually correct me. That'd be great. So there's a monk who had this toothache and he needed to get his tooth pulled. It was hurting and hurting and hurting. Well, to get to the dentist where he could have it pulled, it was a 2-day walk. So he had to walk through the mountains to get his tooth pulled. And it was just excruciating pain. So he thought about it, right? And it was hurting and hurting. And he decided to, instead of doing a 2-day walk, getting it pulled, and then coming back, he decided he went out to the shed, took a wrench, pulled his tooth out himself, then and there, and then was done. And he thought to himself and shared that when someone asked, like, why did you pull your own tooth? It was the fact that, well, I could be in excruciating pain for 2 more days and walk there and then walk back. Or I could be in pain for 10 minutes, pull it out, deal with that pain, and then be done. Right? So deal with the pain. It's not saying that you take ownership of your feelings. Doesn't mean you're not feeling it, that you're just shoving it away. You have to address it. You have to acknowledge it, feel those emotions, cry, be mad, be angry, but let it be for that short time so that you're like, okay, I felt it. I got through it. Now I'm going on. The ones that I like to hold on to are the freaking happy ones, right? When you're pumped up, you're like, yeah, I'm going to own the world. I feel great. those feelings you can keep holding and holding and holding, and hopefully have many of those in your day. But for the sad ones, the angry ones, the painful ones, have it, feel it, totally embrace the pain, embrace it fully, but then be done. Let's move on. I hear you, bud, but your mic is muted, at least what I could see, so I can hear you. Sorry, man.
Kelly said the magic is to feel it and be able to react as who you want to be. All right. And then Krista says, love the feels, so on. It's the judgments and thoughts about the feels we need to harness. Feeling the feels is so necessary. The feels are waves on top of the ocean.
Heck yes. And you need to feel that. You need to be there and let it wash over you for those times, for sure.
Right. One of the best people I know in the coaching space, right? And I'm one of the hardest people in the coaching space. Most coaches don't like me because I'm very honest in the space. It's a space where you don't need anything to be in. So, and it scares me because we're playing with people's lives.
Right.
Right. So really trying to master the craft is important to me in that space, because if you're not, it sends me it bothers me, the message being sent. Right. It's just like, you're just in it because it's a cool space, right? Like that meme that's like, I didn't eat the brownie this morning, now I'm a health coach.
Right. Exactly.
And it's like, and not everybody does that. Not everybody coaches like that. So when I talk about those coaches, I'm not speaking to every coach, but I'm speaking to the ones that don't care about mastering the craft, because you're playing with people's lives. Right. So if you don't take that serious, I have a problem with it. All right. So, and I speak that. And so a lot of people like me because there's no standard.
Right.
There's no bar that we have to stay over in order to maintain our practice. Right. In the teaching world, you have a teaching license. You need to maintain a certain level to maintain a teaching license. Right. Right. Like doctors, nurses. Right. Like most people that interact with people that have to affect a person's life, psychiatrists, psychologists. Right. They all have licensing that can be affected if they don't maintain a proper standard in the space that they're in.
Exactly.
And we're like the only space that I know of much, or that I'm involved in, that has a lot to do with people's lives and doesn't have some kind of way to maintain that we stay above ground, right? So I'm very hard on coaches, and one of the best ones in the space, Andres Valencia. He's amazing in the space. Talks way too slow for me, but he's amazing in the space. And he always says, you got to feel the feels. Like, he talks about feeling the feels and it's crazy because at first I wasn't on the same page as what he was saying, what he meant by what he said to what he said. And we were kind of debating this, and he brought me up, which I'm like, oh, I hate when you do that. Right. Right. Like, bring up some other person, bring up a random person, make a hypothetical. Right. You don't have to bring me up. But he's like, remember like almost 30 years of your life, Mike, when you wouldn't let yourself feel feels, and what happened because you wouldn't let yourself feel it. Right. And that was part of my reality shattering, my wall getting crumbled, whatever you want to call it. It was that I had all these things that I didn't deal with, and then other things started piling on, and the weight came so much for this foundation that was built on bullshit to hold. Right. And then finally it gave. And when he said that, I was just like, all right, now I understand what you mean. Right. And 100%. It's my thing is that I'm always big on, and the reason why I kind of backed out of the mental health field a little bit was I feel like we get too stuck. We get too stuck in the past. We get too stuck with things that happened to us that it wasn't our fault, right? Like Will Smith says, it's not your fault, but it's damn sure your responsibility, right? Mm-hmm. He also says, get jiggy with it. But the idea is like, you're like the things are going to happen. You're going to get those feelings, but how we can work through those feelings and not fight it, because we have to shape new reality, right? We have to see what is, right? And two, feel it and gain a lesson from it, gain strength from it, right? Or gain a transformation or a change from it, right? That's in a positive direction, a better direction for us. And then move from it, right? Like, my big thing is we have to move from things, because the longer we get stuck, the worse it gets, because then we don't see progress, right? And we don't see change, and we don't feel something new. We don't see something new. We actually see it worse because we're still stuck there. And the longer we're stuck somewhere, the worse it gets. Right. I think of it like you're stuck in, like, we both know a little bit about, grass, right?
Right.
Like the actual earth type, not like some weird, not like smoking it. You get a car on grass, right? And you start skidding, right? Your tires start spinning. The more you do that and not move, the more that tire is getting dug in.
Exactly.
Right. And the more you do that, the more and more it gets dug in, the harder it is to get out, the more and more. And I think that's just like phases that we go through. The more we get stuck in that phase and just tread our tires and don't see progress and don't move, the harder and worse that phase is. Right. And it's like part of our story with our walls is that we got stuck in a phase and we wanted that to be life.
And the hard part with our walls, I think, is that, you want to embrace the emotions, and we've talked about embracing the feels and taking ownership. But if you're letting your walls dictate what you feel, then that's not really being true and authentic to yourself and helping you out at all, right? Like,
100%.
Sure, I mean, I had anger issues for many years, and then I built up walls, and then guess what? Those anger issues, they never did anything until boom, all of a sudden popped out, right? It builds it up. So I'm not really dealing with those things. Instead, be authentic to yourself, embrace those emotions, those feelings, those things coming around you with your true self, with your authentic self, which you only come by really learning to look inward and discovering who you are and going through stuff and whatever life. But you have to deal with the true self and not through the walls, right? If you filter through the walls, you're not getting the real thing. It's not helping you at all. I mean, to be frank about it, right? We all know people who are very stoic, right? And let's talk mainly men. Males are we're kind of raised, we talked about this yesterday in my show, that, males are very stoic and they're very, for the most part, right, they shouldn't show emotion unless it's anger or something like that, and joy occasionally, but more anger. Well, we need to shift that. We need to shift that as perspective. And women go through the same thing in different ways and different emotions. And like we all have our stereotypes that we have to fit in with. But I think we need to break those. We should break away from those stereotypes and actually embrace our feelings, talking about feeling stereotypes at least, embrace those because it's going to help you grow. It's going to help you be a better person. My wife and I were at a 3-day all-intensive camp at Tony Horton's house, and he had some people there. And she made a comment to me afterwards of how 2 or 3 of the people there, men who were in their 50s, were like, wow, they were so in tune with their emotions. Like we brought up how his son passed away, right? One of their, not Tony Horton's, but one of the helper's sons passed away. And he was just tearing up right then and there, and the certain impact at all these different things. And she goes, it's so cool to see and so nice to see men who are willing to show their emotions. And I saw that. I was there for the story. I heard it. I saw it. And I noticed it in him. But it didn't make that impact like it did for her. And coming from her, seeing who I know she knows at least, and her life experiences, she doesn't see guys be open about that. And I think men need to be open with their emotions. Like don't be afraid of crying. Don't, even in your intro to the show, right? Like we're going to make you laugh. We're going to make you cry, do all that thing with this show. You have to be open to it. I think women are more in touch with that, but they still have their own things that you go through. And I'm not a woman, so I couldn't tell you what those are, but we all go through our own things, but you have to be willing to face them, to accept them, and let it feel. Let yourself feel them.
Right. I love some of the things you said right there. And then I'm going to ask you a question to add on to this for next phase. Right. Jay Quimby came in the room. He said, "Learn from the past. Don't repeat it if you don't like the feeling it gave you."
Boom. Love it, Jay.
All right. And I would almost say twofold on that, really, Jay. And why is because not just the feeling, but what it did for your purpose, what it did for your further mission, right? Because all too often I did things because I liked the feeling it gave me, but it didn't help me. It's no longer is the feeling you get, but is it helping you, right? It's like, because I used to do a lot of recreational activities, drugs and alcohol, and I love the feeling it gave me, right? But it wasn't helping me. It was masking, and it was actually then keeping me in a place I didn't want to be in. Right. And I love the thing where you talked about being open and honest with people. Right. Like, and that's one of the biggest things with me. I always say it's like, let's be very real in a conversation we're going to have. If we're not going to be very real in it, let's bullshit about sports or something BS. Right? Let's
Right.
not have some. Let's not pretend to have deep dialogue. We're either going to have it or we're not going to have it. Right? So if you come to me about something, we're going to be very real with one another about it. And I'm probably going to speak to you in a way you've never been spoken to. But because we actually want to get somewhere. And it's funny, it's like almost every client I ever get always says, no one spoke to me the way you speak to me. I was like, well, deal with it, right? Like real good coaching phrase. Deal with that shit, right? No, but so the idea was, so we know that you got to be willing to take the feels in, but not get stuck in those places. We know that be careful how you filter, because you might be filtering toward your story and not towards reality, right? And the more you do that, the more likely it is going to have a horrible ending for you. And it's not even an ending, but a horrible moment. And then you're going to have to determine which you go. And I would say, like, everybody needs their rock bottom. What everybody's rock bottom is very different, though.
Totally.
Right? It's funny. I lost one of my buddies to overdose. Right? He passed away due to overdose. And every time something happened, we were like, they would say, "Oh, this has to be rock bottom, right?" And I'm like, we don't get to determine that.
Right.
Like, they have to. Like, they have to decide, this isn't me. This isn't my life. And I don't know how I got here, but I'm not staying here.
But and
Right,
what
because-
is that turning point? And as you said, you can't tell a person what that rock bottom is. They have to decide it. And the hope and something we all pray for is that they realize what that rock bottom is and turn it around before they don't see it, because they will go too far.
Right. Before there is no opportunity for rock bottom.
Exactly.
Right. And so and that was one of the hardest things, is that we don't get to determine that. Like, as bad as we want to for our people, we see it, right? Like, we all know people that, like, you're not doing something that's great for you, right? Like, you're not doing something that's going to help you win, right? This is going to get bad at some point if you continue down this. And I used to say a phrase, like, I was smart. I used to be like, I'm too lucky to get in trouble. And that, it wasn't saying that I was stupid, it was believing it. So I believed that I was too lucky. Like, nothing will happen to me. Right. And then all of a sudden it was like, bing, 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 happen to me. And I'm like, oh my God. Right. Like 2 seconds ago, I was too lucky. Right? Like, now I'm so unlucky, rather than being like, no, it's like, when it's like the classic lines, you play with fire long enough, you're going to get burnt. Well, 100%.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And you play with these things that could be devastating or harmful to your life. They're going to be. So now, we have these people, they're feeling these feels, right? Like, they're going through it. They have the filter, though, right? Like, they're in that danger zone, right? That we all get into sometimes, where it could go bad for us.
Yeah.
What are you telling like, you're a buddy of yours that's in this position? What are you telling a client of yours that's in this position? What are things they can notice? What are things they can do? Right? Like, one of the things I love doing on this and everything we do is no longer saying, hey, this is what happens, but hey, this is how you can identify some of those things. And this is how tools that you can use to change those things.
Dude, great question. And I love the shift to help people out. So you need to, first of all, know and realize that you're hitting that rock bottom or going through that rough time, right? I think we all know those moments when we start getting into the pit, right? When we fall down, life knocks us down, or however you want to describe it. The thing that I tell my clients, and I do for myself, is that first, I try to identify what are some of the positives out of this situation. What are some of the things that I can take away from this situation? And that's hard. Like, okay, it sounds all fluffy, like, oh yeah, look for something positive in it. Yeah, that should be great. But you know what? It sucks, and it's freaking hard when you're in it and you're down on the ground, kicked, and your walls are shattered, or wherever you are in this, that you go, what the hell good is this? This is absolutely worthless. I feel like absolute crap. There's nothing positives. But then you stop the negative voices and you try to look at it from like another person's perspective, right? Like, I tried looking at it from my mentor's perspective and going in a very philosophical approach, because that works for me, and going, what can happen because of this? What can you learn and grow from? What are the positives? Well, heck, and it's actually funny that we are talking about it now. It's that story. Because I went through that experience, now I could share that and hopefully help people not go through that same shitty ass experience that I went through, right? That hopefully they can grow and not go through it, or heal up and let me help them, show them the tools to heal up. So knowing that the fact you went through it, if you are willing to share your story, right, which UnleashU Now, your story is your power, you want to, you can help people grow and get through that situation even better, right? So knowing that, but then also, what are some of the things you could take away from it? What are those positives from that situation? Okay, well, this was a really crappy experience. This happened. What, because that happened, now I have a story, great. But now I also have these extra tools that I've learned, or I learned, okay, meditation is key. And I've learned these different types of meditation for me, right? And now I can share those with other people to help them through. Oh, look, I had these walls built up around me and they came shattered down. I now know what it feels like to be, euphemism you said, it's like being naked in New York, right? And I know what that feels like, and it sucks, but I know what it feels like. I can relate to a person better now. And now that I've built up those building blocks, after that, I can help people with those building blocks. So how do you build those building blocks? You take it one step at a time. You fix certain things. You realize who you really are inside, and by thinking, praying, meditating, whatever you want to do, earth, wind, fire, and you think about, like, okay, what do I believe in? What do I truly believe in? And okay, how's this get me here? And then you look at, what are your priorities in life? What are the things that are truly important to you? What are the things that matter to you? And put those as, like, as I call them, like your compass, right? Your priority compass. You have your priorities. What things in your life, the things that you're going to do and leading to do, are they in line with your priorities, or are they taking you away, right? So using them to help guide you and taking it step by step, checking in and forgiving yourself for the crap that you've done. You need to take ownership first. So you take ownership, then you need to forgive yourself, and then you're moving forward with that step by step, and having people help you check in. But it's a lot of personal work, right? The outside people are there to help you and keep you there, or to keep lifting you up, I should say, making sure that you're okay. But it's all a lot of personal work.
All right. So I dig a lot of what you were talking about. Again, like I said before we even got on, there's a lot of areas where we're very aligned, right? And one of the big things with what I find with a lot of people that I work or talk with, right? They all come in like, I need to change my life, right? I need to do better in life, right? Like I need to be a better version of myself, right? Like some of these great lines, right? And they're great lines, don't get me wrong, and that's their focus, but that's very overwhelming. Huge. And at the same time, it's very hard to construct that plan, right? It's like, I think of it like anything that's of magnitude: building a house, creating a masterpiece, right? Like an artwork, writing a song, right? Writing lyrics, right? Writing music notes, right? You start at a place, right? And then you work, right? It's like when I work with people about writing copy, right? Because I used to be a ghostwriter, and now I just try to teach people how to do it so that I don't have to do it for them. Because there's something about your own emotion about what you do that's second to none.
Exactly.
Right? Like, I'll never have the emotion of what you do about your stuff. You will, right? And as understanding people, we act on emotion. We don't react on logic. We make things logical so our computer can feel comfortable with it, but we're embracing something because of the emotion we think it'll make us feel, and the emotion we're experiencing that we want to move from or experience at a greater level, right? So it's rather than this whole picture. Krista says, no one can do the work for you, but the journey is so much safer and easier with a good guide. There you go.
Heck
the
yeah,
guide.
brother.
It's about the guide. I'll put that on the screen because she used the word guide.
That is awesome.
Right. So love it. It's rather than look at this as a whole, like, we talk about personal growth a lot, right?
Yeah.
Because we're both piece of us, at least, in the personal growth space.
Yep.
And personal growth is huge, right? Like, I literally have a membership about personal growth, right? It's literally called the Growth Movement Membership.
Nice.
And we only focus in 5 areas of growth. If you have to say something you only focus in 5 areas, there's a lot of areas then, right? But so we and we talk about health, wealth, relationships, mindset, and purpose. And the reason why we break those down into little pieces is because, and then we go in and break them down even more, is because when we can focus on changing this little thing and then this little thing, which isn't that crazy, right? Like in this little thing, not that hard, not overwhelming. Doesn't look like I'm not making progress. Doesn't look like I'm falling behind. Doesn't look like I don't know what I'm like the act that's happening. So I have to quit and give up and go back to old routines and old habits because I'm used to them and I've put them in so much time that I'm not willing to give something else time. It's because we look at this masterpiece and we say we have to be that, right? We look at like if you're a speaker and you look at some of the best speakers, or if you're a musician, you look at some of the best musicians. And if you, right, like whatever it is you do, you look at some of the best in it and you're like, this is my idol. This is my mentor. This is who I'm going to be. And I'm like, okay, but let's start by taking the first step and being them per se, even though I say be yourself. But it's the first step is, all right, well, what are you going to teach? Right. Well, let's get a book on that. Right. Or like, let's look up, let's Google search and look at one of the first couple articles that come up about it, right? Like building it towards where there's a chance for success. All too often, I feel like we set ourselves up for failure because we're saying we want to be this big thing, and then we expect to be this big thing, and we don't know all the BS you have to go through to become that.
You have these big goals, right? There's this big idea of like, I want to be this masterpiece. I want to be this speaker, this composer, this musician, whatever it is, right? Wrestler. And boom, I want to be there. Well, as you said, first of all, you should never be them. You should be yourself and working towards it. But that's, let's just say, the end goal. And hell, even that's not the end goal in reality. It's the journey to it that you have to embrace and that you learn from. And that's where life is, right? Life is in this journey as we go towards our goals and dreams and masterpieces and all that. So you're right. You need to take it one step at a time. And for me, for my clients, when they say, hey, heck, I can't stand my life, I need to change it. Well, hold on a second here. I bet there are some things in your life that you freaking love. That's why you chose to do it. There are certain things, there's passions, and it could be your job, it could be a passion, things that you do. So you really don't need to change the entire landscape. You don't need to change totally. No, you need to change and adapt some things. Some things need a major change. Some things need just a little course correction, right? And so it's finding those one or two things and working on them. And as those get going, then you can add on another one if you want and course correct there. And then you just kind of keep that going, right? So that you keep course correcting, and it's this journey. And then you realize, oh, I course corrected here. Oh, I'm closer to my goal. But guess what? My masterpiece was here, but now it shifted because I learned and I grew and I discovered, oh no, it's more like this. Well, cool. Then you shift over there. I mean, you talked about my bio at the beginning of being so wondering and all these different Renaissance-ish things because it's, a splatter of everything. Well, that's how it is, right? Because I was open to experimenting here and guiding, oh, I really like that. Well, that led me over here, and now that led me here. And it's just this one, not wandering river, it's this winding river, right? Of my energy, the current of the river just flowing through and impacting different things and learning as much as I go so I can keep helping others. And same thing goes for you, right? You keep adjusting and being open to that flow.
All right. So funny tidbit about me, you probably don't know. I used to be a rapper.
I can see that with a hat and beard. I can see it.
Don't laugh at me. I was a rapper back in the day, back 20 plus years ago. I was a rapper.
So you're not going to drop some rhymes for us now, really?
Nope.
You said that and left us hanging.
I'll bring up my one of my greatest remix I ever did was a Steve Winwood song, "Back in the High Life Again."
Nice. And
I was like, I once was a 9, but now I'm a 10. I came to save the game like Rob Nen because he was a closer for the Dodgers back in the day. But it was probably my greatest. Remix the song I ever wrote. But so here was the deal. I saw what rappers were, right? Like I grew up with people and seeing people with the nice cars, right? Like the nice drip, swag, whatever you want to call it now, clothes, right? Like I'll use a million nicknames and I'll say the just regular name. And it's like everything was so right, like put together, and they had the respect, and they put their area on the map, and these are things I wanted to do. I wanted to put my area on the map because people were, where I came from, they weren't doing this.
Right.
That's why I always laugh when people you want to know what you're going to be like, look at the people around you. I'm like, bro, I grew up with no one doing this, just so we know. right? Like, it's like, just so we can be completely honest, there wasn't a bunch of people sitting in my backyard like, we're going to be speakers and we're going to be entrepreneurs and we're going to be coaches, and like, they weren't doing that. All right. So I laugh at that phrase because, and then I don't think Babe Ruth hung out with a bunch of MLB baseball players. I don't think Michael Jordan hung out with a bunch of NBA players. I don't think Abraham Lincoln hung out with a bunch of politicians or presidents, right? But they were it. Chris Gardner was sleeping in a bathroom in a subway, right? And then became to have $1 billion business plus. All right. So
I have some comments on that, but we'll address it in a second.
No, do it. Say it.
So, okay, I agree with you, and I see where you're coming from, but you weren't surrounded by those people. And I personally am a big believer in you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I believe in that, and I see what you're saying. Okay, well, I wasn't a rapper. I wasn't surrounded by people who said they were going to do things, or speakers and whatnot. Well, okay, throughout time, how have you shifted, right, to introducing those people, and not necessarily speakers, right? Let's say President Abraham Lincoln, right? He didn't surround himself with presidents and all those higher people, but he's probably most likely surrounded himself with high achievers, with people who had goals, people who were going for things, whether or not it was politics or not, right? Babe Ruth, he probably surrounded himself around people who, and I don't know, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I'm not 100% sure, but surrounded himself with people who were at that higher level to some degree. You surround yourself with people who are of a higher caliber, who are going for things, who are pushing themselves, in turn pushing you. And same thing with me. I try to surround myself with people who are living their big life, who are going after their things and pushing themselves, and in turn helping push me, right? So you're surrounding your people, whether it could be a podcast, it could be shows, but ideally in person, right? And the community surrounding, because they're a hell of a lot more of an impact than a podcast. But even that can help push you and get you there. So I see what you're saying, but I also disagree, because it happens over time, right? It's not.
See, my thing with that is that, and what I would say to you is that when I got into these new spaces, like where I came from, there wasn't a lot of high achievers, right? Like a lot of the people I hung out with, they don't do things that we look at as things that we would do, right? Like, they're not entrepreneurs, they're not business owners, right? Like some are locked up, some are doing criminal activities, some are doing 9-to-5 jobs at not 9 to 5. Right, like there's a lot of that. A lot of the people I hung out with are like that. I barely hung out with any entrepreneurs. And what I always say when people say that quote is, I say, I never get to the people that I become until I become it. Right. So it's like now I know a bunch of entrepreneurs, right? Like business owners. I know tons of them.
Right.
Because I became one.
Right.
So then I met them, and then I got into their circles, and then I saw where they were and where they hung out and what they did, right? Like, and then I didn't start doing that per se, but I started at least knowing where I could, if I wanted to have a meeting or hang out with like-minded people in that aspect. And it's like, one of the things I always debate is when they say like-minded people, I don't know if we're talking about missions, morals, right? Values, right? Like, where it's like, when that quote was said, right, what were they referring to, right? And that's where I always get the question. Yeah,
but
it's like even podcasting. I didn't know anyone did podcasting before I did it.
And so, but you still had the drive, and I see what you're coming from, and I totally see it, and that's cool. And I'm also thinking, okay, but you had the drive to get there, right? So you took the initiative, so you had the drive. Okay, I had this podcast first before I knew anyone else. Then I realized, oh my gosh, there's these other people. Or I in the circle, same with entrepreneurship, right? You had the drive to get there. I'm thinking of the quote even now as saying like, okay, they said it well. Okay, they had the drive to do it, right? If I told that to someone who wasn't interested in bettering themselves, it wouldn't mean anything, right? They don't care about it. But because you are and other people listening are trying to be better and improve themselves and growing personally, well, now then that has something to it. So you're still striving to be better. So what do? You're looking for those things, those opportunities or certain people, whether all of a sudden now you're in that space and now you see them and you get introduced to them and get in their circles or not, you're open to it, right? You're sending out the energy to the universe to say, I'm open to this higher level thinker and positive. And you said, okay, what is it? Morals? Is it integrity? Blah, 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 whatever it is, right? Well, Can it be for all of them? Like, think about people in, and I was raised Roman Catholic. I'm a musician in 2 churches, but think about church people, right? People in a church have that same mindset about church, roughly, or at least what should happen within that church, and it's different than this one or another one, right? Or whatever it is, communities, right? You pick your topic, right? And it's the people that you surround yourself by who have the like-minded people. That's why people love their tribes. That's why people love communities, because you have generally the same ideas, values of them, right? And yes, you can get into politics and all this other stuff you can get into, but why do you like your tribe? Well, because they're people like you, right? That's why I have the Jones and Ford tribe, and I love surrounding myself with them because they're people I like and people that think like me and are pushing themselves, right? So that's how that grows and happens. So I think it could work for any strain that we were talking about. I think I went off on a total side tangent, but but like, I think it can work for anything: morals, money, mindset, whatever, right? It all depends, and they could be different circles, and that's cool.
Right. And then, so it's like, my thing is, why I question that phrase is because I don't see it being the truth. It can happen and it cannot happen. I mean, there's people that like, it's like, and one, I don't like blanket statements anytime. So anybody tells me a blanket statement, I normally say it's a lie. And when I say a blanket statement, I normally say it's a lie. But it's like, my circle for years, I was making a different kind of financial than they were. But my circle has always been love, right? Like, even when we were like tough guys, it was because we knew we would fight for one another. We knew we would be there for one another. Like, we knew when it really happened, we weren't going to be alone, right? Like, those people are going to be there. It's like when I talk about like Alex, who's now, he's the MC for all the UnleashU Now events. He does a lot with UnleashU Now. It's like, people are like, how are you and Alex? Like, cool, and really transformed, even though you guys were complete different lives. I said, oh, it didn't matter what Alex did. Like, that's my dude, just because of things that we went through, that he was there for me, in physical situations and also like emotional situations, where he was there. He had my back. Like, there's a certain thing where people are like, risk freedom, life for you, that you're just like, they're my guy. Right? Like, no matter what we do. And that's why it's like the UnleashU Now family. That's why we call it the family, is because it's more heart-centered. Like, people are doing completely different things. There's people there's entrepreneurs in it. There's people that work 9 to 5 in it. There's coaches in it. There's speakers in it. There's authors in it. Like, it's all walk of life. So it's like, but we're all heart-centered. Like, we're all about impact-driven people.
And that's a community. You have the community of love, the community of impact, and camaraderie, right? And that's huge. And yeah, you could be doing totally different things than everybody else in many ways, but you have that community, that circle, as it were, based on that one thing, which is huge. Right.
And I totally believe in the proximity effect. So I understand when they're talking about your circle, they really mean proximity effect. What are you close to? Right. So I get the proximity effect and what it can do to you. And you grow up in a dangerous area, there's more likelihood that you're going to be in a dangerous situation. Right. Like that. It's, I 100% agree with that. And that's, numbers prove that, science proves that, right? Like human behavior proves that. So I get that part of it. It's just, I don't like, why I hate that phrase is because there's people now that are stuck, right? They're stuck in a shitty situation. They're stuck in dangerous areas. They're stuck in communities that are ruled by gangs, right? Like run and ruled by gangs, or run and ruled by crime organizations, or run and ruled by the Good Old Boy Network, or the Mom Pops Money Network, whatever it is, right? And if I don't fight that phrase, it makes it real to them, where that's what they know, that's what they're in, that's what they get. And I'm like, no, you can pick anytime you want to do a complete different life. I have a complete different life than I did 20 years ago. Completely different. And you can I'm not special. Anybody can do that. It's like, you just have to make the decision and then make the choices and then stay dedicated to that, through all the bullshit. And so that's why I fight that phrase.
I totally see why you fight it. And I agree with you 100%. Like, it almost sounds like we're disagreeing, but we're not. Because no, I totally agree. Like that. And I see what you mean by people who hear that phrase then, who are in situations like that, who would be, well, crap, no, I'm stuck here. I can't do any better. Well, no, if you want to do better, right? Well, okay, but that's where you are now, but that doesn't mean that's where you have to be. But you have to be
Right.
willing, as you said, you have to be willing to make those changes, stick with it, and go for it. And then, like you did, like I did, we made changes, and life changes for you, and you can be in a different situation, right? Hopefully,
Right.
a better situation then, right?
100%.
Because you are doing, but you have to be willing to do it.
You got it. It's
Total
on you,
side
right?
tangents for us.
We're the
I love it.
guide.
It's great. We're the guide. Come
We're
on.
the guide, right? But that's the best part of the show. It's like that's why it goes so long, because we get into a million side tantrums,
I love it.
right? And we were talking about, now from that we actually transitioned to something I do want to talk about. So we talk about like changing your life and changing the way it is and making those decisions and being stuck to it. And it's not going to be easy.
Never.
Right? Like this shit's going to be hard.
Sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's I don't like blanket statements, but I'll even go with you're never more likely than sometimes. And it's like, and I still tell people, like, in this space I'm in, I've been in for 10 years, right? Like I feel like after a certain amount of time, you start realizing things about people in spaces.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I always say, a catchy jingle doesn't last forever, right? Like there has to be something to a product if it's around for a while, and catchy jingles fall off. So if you got a jingle, you better work on your product fast, right? And there's still people in this space, in the speaking world, that will not let me on their stage. They will not. They don't care if I get a million times popular or no more popular, right? Like people that support me or people that resonate with my message or not. They don't care. There are people that will not let me on their stage. I was in podcasting before it was even termed podcasting. It was called audio blogging. All right. And me and one of the people that run one of the organizations about podcasting literally said, you're like, I'm not going to put you on my stage. Like, I don't care how long you did it. Like, I don't care if they called you the godfather of podcast. Like, I don't care about any of that. And I'm like, oh, well, all right. Way to care about your people, right? Like, I don't want you to care about me. I want you to care about if I have anything to offer the people that are coming to your event.
Right.
Right. And if I do, then they're right for it. And if I don't, then I'm not right for it. And I understand that. Right. Like there's events where I know I'm not right for it.
Right. Exactly.
Right? But so there's people still in the space that will not accept me. There's still people in my family that will not accept or change how they view me from the guy that was a punk ass. Right. And why I'm saying this is, it's not a poor me moment. It's the moment where you don't need that. You don't need them to view you differently. You don't need them to let you on their stage. Like you don't need other people to let you in their cliques and sets and circles. You don't need that. What you need to do is keep making those decisions. Keep going to what makes your heart leap. Keep fighting for what you believe, right? Keep fighting for what your soul and your purpose and your mission here is for, right? You're fighting for the people that will feel and be impacted and align and unite with your story, with your purpose, right? With your mission, like what you're truly about at the core of you. And for the longest time, when I first got in this space, I battled wanting to be accepted by the space. And I did that for years. And it was like, it was ruining what I loved. Right. And then finally, it was like, I didn't get into this for that. Like, I didn't get into this to be accepted by any other conferences or any other networks, or like, I didn't do that for that. I did that because I wanted to help people. I did that because maybe I could say something that would save someone time and pain that they didn't have to go through. Right. Like, and the more I realized that, oh man, it became so much, it became so different, so powerful, because all the stuff that used to take my time and energy didn't take it anymore. And I could straight just focus on what spoke to my heart.
Exactly.
And I say, I really only got to that space like 2 years ago, so out of a 10-year journey. So it's 8 years that it took me to get to that space where I was just like, cool, do your thing, right? Like, I know what I bring to a table. I know how I can help. I know what I offer, and I know how I'm going to go about it. And that I keep working and trying to master that. And that's my decision. You're not.
And you've mastered how to be confident, right? In yourself, in how you are with what you believe and what you present, what you offer people. I think you even made a post earlier today that said you transitioned from feeling like you wanted to be needed and you desired to be needed to being wanted. People chose you. And dude, that was awesome, because you know what? to do that, right? You feel like, oh, I need to be needed. I want to be needed. These people, they're always leaning on me. Well, why are you constant? I mean, you can constantly give people and give yourself to help, but you should be wanted. You should have it where people want to be working with you, and you need to have the confidence to stand up for yourself, to say, no, I don't agree with that. That doesn't align with me. Yes, that does align, and I belong here. Or, yeah, you and I work really well together. You could be one of my clients and we could work well. Awesome. Or, we thought this would work, but you know what? It's just not jiving. I'm not the right person for you. And, go, here's some other people I would suggest with, because I know I can't help you reach the goals like they can, right? We're just not aligning. And being okay with that, being confident in that. And that goes back to what I mentioned earlier, for me at least, of knowing what your priorities are, right? So tearing down those walls, looking at your true self and knowing, what are my priorities, as my dogs freak out back there. What are your priorities to you that you believe in, and stand firm in it. Don't be willing to collapse of the things you believe in and not own up to them. Right, being strong, being confident in it, because that's going to guide you for everything else. So clients, jobs you pick, whatever it is that for you, right? Tasks that you do, goals that you pick, do they align with your priorities? Do they align with who you really are, or don't they? If they don't align, don't do them. If they align and it fits in your schedule, do them.
Right. I love what you said. There's something we do. I do with the UnleashU Now crew. We call it Unleashed, right?
Yeah.
And I say make the sound of the unleashed, right? And everybody makes their own sound, whatever their strength victory sound is, right? And I do like some weird like rah, right? Like it's just totally berserk with the beard and stuff. It looks perfect, right? It looks like I'm on Viking Quest or something.
Nice.
But it's so. And then after I do that, I always say, for those that aren't part of that community, like it might be a little strange now, but at the end, you're gonna get it. You're gonna want to be part of that community. Right. And all that sound is knowing that our destiny is written in the world, right? Like it's our success is promised, right? Like I feel like one of the biggest things, but here's the only way to keep that promise is that you have to keep going.
Get up after you get knocked down.
Yep. Dang right. You got to battle every day, and you got to go to work every day. You got to hammer that sword every day for that battle. And then if you do that, it is promised. You have it. Right. And so, and that's the only way. I don't see any way for anyone not to do that and make it. Like, not, you have to come to work every day to battle to be able to get what you're promised, which we all have. It's like what I'm supposed to be is willed by the universe. It's written. I just have to know I have to keep coming back. So I don't feel good. I got to come do this. Right. Like I got to show up for this interview. I got to do this because I don't care how I feel. These are the things that are going to get in my way. And if I let them, then I will not be able to fulfill my purpose and mission to the degree in which I was supposed to, or that I was here for, that I was capable of, right? And I made a post before that one you mentioned, which was I wanted to be needed and then I needed to be wanted. That's not how I worded it, but I do like it that way now. After you said it, I was like, ooh, I'm kind of gonna. I was like, I kind of like what he was saying. I'm gonna run with it. But it's before that phrase, I said, I know my worst ass kicking I got in life. Right. And it's regret.
Yep.
That's the worst aspect. Right. And and my big thing is like, do today so I don't regret today. Right. Like do today so I don't regret tomorrow. And because I know the worst things for me is the regrets I have. Right. Like I got over, a lot of the heartbreaks, a lot of the scars I got, right. Like inside and out. I got over a lot of that stuff. It's the regrets that I can't change anything of. Right, like that I did waste 2 years of my pop's relationship. That the last words I said to my brother weren't out of love. Right, like that I wasn't fully engaged in the phone call. That the next thing I heard from my friend was that he took his own life. Right, like that I did get in a fight with a bum. Right, like these are the things I heard. That's a weird one to add there, right? But these are the weird ones. Like these are the. I do regret it though. He tried to take my money, but it was lack of empathy and lack of respect for the position he was in. So I regret that. I didn't have to do it that way. It was a bad decision by me, and I regret it because I wasn't at the character in which I hold myself to. So it's like those are the things that whoop my ass. Like those are the things that still move me to tears. Right? Like those are the things that still break my heart. Like it's not that I failed third grade. It wasn't that some of my businesses failed. Right? It wasn't that I lost 6 figures multiple times or 5 figures multiple times too. Right? Like those things don't move me. Right? But those things with people and connections that I never got to undo, right? Like, or I never got the opportunity to even add to make it where that would be less of a regret. So when I talk to people about living your life, I'm like, it's yes, 100%. Sitting on that couch, right, watching some Netflix and eating some ho-hos would be super simple, right? And there's days, believe me, I do need that, right? But my thing is always like, is this going to cause me to do something where down the road I'm going to regret?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I started doing that a lot. Go ahead.
Oh no, go on, man. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, I do that a lot in relationships now too. Like, is this worth this fight? Right? Like, is this worth this? Because of my change, especially in the last 10 years, I've lost a lot of people that I was really cool with, that I thought were like we were brothers. Right. Like I use the word bro a lot, and brother and brother, right? Like I use those terms a lot.
So do I.
And because to me, that's a term of respect.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then there's degrees of brotherhood, right? Like you're my brother because we're in the same arena, right? Exactly. Like we're fighting to impact people and help people and otherwise. So you're my brother in that aspect. And then there was brothers, like we went through a lot of it together and like fought cases together, fought people together, right? Like been in some crazy situations. I don't know how the hell we got out together, right? Like we used to have this phrase: "We'd go in like a hurricane and leave the same way," right? And it was making sure we both knew get in and get out, right? Like don't get caught up. And it's like those guys that I like, that was love, family, like that was deeper than blood, right? Because me, I don't talk to much of my blood family. And it's because that's family I was dealt. Family we created is more, right? Like people talk about your wife, right? That's not your blood family. That's your love family. Right?
Exactly.
That's how deep love family is, right? Like love family is deeper than blood family because we chose that shit.
Exactly. I'm same with you. Or I don't talk to some of my blood family. Some I do, but not all. But that love family is huge. And yeah, I mean, I'll touch on regret in a little bit, but you keep going, brother.
No, I'm good. Do it.
So you mentioned regret, and regret's one of the worst things a person can have, right? I mean, you hear people have just blanket statement for you just because I know you love them so much, you know, of a person asking an elderly person on their deathbed, like, what's their biggest thing that they regret? Not taking the chances, not taking the things, right? What's their biggest thing? It's regret, right? So yeah, we all have things, we all have done things in our life that we regret. We all have, and we each have our own thing. And for me personally, it's working to forgive yourself for those events, right? So for you, not saying words to your brother out of love, right? For the last time. Well, you can't go back and change it. You can't do that, but you can work at forgiving yourself for that, knowing that I wish I did it better. I wish I could change it, but I can't. But I forgive myself for doing that, which is hard to do, totally, and it takes time. But then you also learned, right? You grew out of those regrets. You grew out of those experiences that you had and go, you know what? I'm not going to let that happen again, or I'm going to do my best, I should say, to not let that happen again, right? You're taking those regrets, those experiences you've had, and turning them on their head and being, well, instead of living with this regret and living with this anger and depression the whole time, where, yeah, it still pulls on your heartstrings, right? There's still days that my mistake just rips me to shreds, or I let those moments happen. But then I go, hold on, stop. And I literally tell myself to stop and say, no, you're not going to take control over me. I know I messed up. I know that this was a mistake. I regret it. But you know what? I'm learning from it. I'm growing from it. Let's go. And let's use that instead as momentum to go forward. I'm not saying I'm not feeling it. I'm feeling those emotions, letting myself, but then saying, all right, enough is enough. Let's move forward here, because life is not worth living in regrets. It's not worth living in that past of always being held back by those anchors of regret and anchors of all the crap that happened before, to now where you are, living your life intentionally and learning from those things in your past. And that's my big thing, is always taking what can you learn from it? How can you apply it to your future and living it for success to keep you going and launching you towards success, and success being whatever your dreams, goals are, you're living your life, chasing your passions, whatever that is for you. You're on mute again, bud. Oh, killing me with this mute button thing.
All right. I love it. I don't want you to hear me chugging water. So I'm a loud swallower.
I'll just keep having my coffee.
So, right. So the one of the things with me with regret is that how I switched the framework of it in my mind, kind of thing. It used to be where I wasn't worthy enough, right? I didn't deserve gifts because my people passed. They weren't here to have their life. Why would I? Right? And I would self-sabotage myself from getting to certain levels because I was like, I don't want that because they don't get to have it. And I did that for years. And I went to this training, and it was a coaching training I've been through. I'm like you, I love to invest and go all over the place and try different trainings and try to hear different speakers and different experiences. All right. And I feel like that makes me be able to grow more so that I can serve more.
Exactly.
And so I go to this training, and it was an awesome training for the most part. And one of the guys in it, it's weird. It's like you go to these things and then you meet people there, and they almost have more impact on you than the training or event. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And what I have to say is they're part of it, right? Like it's the room. I call it the room. Life changes when you go in the room, and it's because of everything part of it. It's not just the speakers, the music and dancing, all the weird shit. It's also the people sitting with you, the energy of the room, right? Like it all encompasses into changing. Like
100%.
And a guy said, and the guy was so simple. The guy looked at me and he's like, so sad you view it that way, man. He's like, when I heard you talking, I viewed it as they wanted you to have it so they could have it now because they're not here to have it. So it's like rather than you died with them, they live with you. And I was like, shit. And it's so funny because before that I was talking about, because we had to do these things where you did a big group and then you break in small groups, big group, break in small groups. And I said, like, one of my tattoos is I have a cross with different initials of the people I lost. And I carry it, it's over my shoulder where, I don't know how much you know about history, but when a warrior surrendered to death, he would get on his knees and put his head down. They would stick the sword through his back shoulder blade cross, and that would kill him. Right. And so I put the cross there because they're protecting me from that. They're protecting me from death. And then when I go, it's like they go with me and I go with them. Right. Like, so a piece of me died with them and a piece of them lived with me. And I explained this all to them before. And I never looked at it that way until that guy said it. And I was like, oh my God, the whole way I even explained it was that they live with me and I die with them. Right. And it was just like, we had a code, and that code is lived by, and I will always live by that code. Right. Like literally, it's hilarious. Right. So every once in a while, I'll still play a video game here and there. Right.
Nice. And perspective is huge, dude. Perspective is so huge. I mean, in life, no matter what it is, but especially for that and regrets, is how do you perceive it? What is your perspective of it? Does it have to be this way constantly, or can it be that way? Right. And just turning it around like that guy said to you, right? And it turned it on its head for you. And all of a sudden your eyes were open. You had that aha moment and going, oh, damn. Yeah, that's right.
Dude, the littlest thing too can cause a huge shift.
Huge. Right? Just, one word can change a person's trajectory. Totally.
So some of my buddies, long time ago, still play Call of Duty. All right.
Okay.
And every once in a while, if I find the time and they're on, I'll jump on and play a game with them.
Nice.
Right. And all of them now, a lot of them are still big time into games, and they're in groups that play in tournaments and stuff. And I'm like, I don't do any of that, man. My reflexes are shot. Right. Like,
right.
It's like if I played in the tournament, it'd be embarrassing. Right. And so they play, and I still have like the oldest tag we would put before our name. It was SSE, and it stood for Santa Slayers. And it was because we were killing Christmas one kid at a time, electronically wise. And they were like, dude, why do you keep putting that tag? Like, everybody has different tags now. I'm like, not me, man. Like, I'm still like, there's guys that we used to play with that are no longer here. Like, this is the tag they had when they went. Like, this is the tag I'll always have. Like, I'll never change this. Right? Like, it's just how I view it. Right? Like my toast every time before, if I have a drink, is for all the ones we lost along the way and for the ones here. Right? Like, nice. It's just that they're always with us. And that mind shift literally propelled no longer my personal life, but also propelled my professional life. Because after that, all of a sudden, I went for bigger gigs and got bigger gigs. I accepted other jobs that I would normally turn down, right? Like I did the Batman symbol package before when I would never do a high dollar ticket package because I was like, no, not me. Right. So just how simple a shift like that could be, and that can change your life, is I only can admit it because I've been through it. Because if you haven't experienced it, it's so hard to believe.
It's huge what mind shift can do, and allowing yourself to step into those bigger shoes, right? So your mindset is the biggest thing, and if you could do anything to improve your mindset, to grow it, it's gonna benefit you tenfold, right? Wherever that is. So for you taking those steps to launch yourself in the business because you're like, no, screw it, I'm going to do this, because you didn't think you were worthy before, but then once you finally said, no, you know what, I am worthy, or I'm going to take this step of faith, and then you were rewarded, right? Or if you weren't rewarded, if you took the step of faith, well, guess what? You learned from it, right? And then, well, that's going to help you out no matter what. So it's shifting your perspective and with your mindset, with how you view things, and just your overall life that can really lead you to being bigger and better and getting closer to your purpose.
So now someone goes with you, they go through your physical, right, exertion activity, right?
Yep.
I call the backyard American Ninja, right?
Yeah.
And right, like they go through with you. What is the shift they're going to get? They come in feeling a certain way? What feeling do they get when they first hook up with you? What feeling do they get when they complete a thing with you?
So when you come work with me, and I think you're referring specifically more to like the challenge days events that we have here, it's the event when you come in and you know you want to be better, you know you want to improve yourself, but you're not 100% sure what that looks like, what that feels like, and you know where to go, right? You're lost. You want to change, you have the big picture, but you're not sure. Well, then you work through it, right? You push yourself physically through different things. And I'll just use your example of the ninja course, right? I have a backyard ninja course that I have in my backyard that we put people through. And you know what? You are going to fail. You are going to fail at that course. But with that, you are also going to succeed. You're going to have moments that are going to make you want to cry. There's moments that are going to want to break you down because it's so tough and it's tricky. But then you realize, and we are there to help you realize and shift your perspective and help you achieve success with it, because then you go, oh, dang, look what I am capable of doing. And not just saying, oh, look, you hung on monkey bars for this long, and saying, oh, no, that was really good. Yay. It's not just a pat on the back. No. We help you and give you the tools to change it, to do something again and do it better, and give you those tools like, no, look at that. I freaking rock that. And I was able to do it. So you come in with, okay, I don't know what to do. I see this big picture. I don't know exactly where to go, and leaving with having the confidence in yourself of stepping outside your comfort zone, of trying something you never have tried before. You were afraid to try, worried to try, and going, oh, you know what? I can do this. I stepped outside my comfort zone. I have this confidence now to go after it. And not only that, but you pinpointed where you want to go. You have a clear definition of, this is where I want to go. Here's my beginning of my roadmap to get there through this, especially through one-on-one coaching, how to build that roadmap to get to that point of that destination that you currently want to achieve. We help you get there. And then through the physical stuff, we help you make sure not only you're physically able to do it, but you have that confidence to get there, right? So it's our 2-day challenge days events. It's one where you grow your mind. We challenge the way you think and plan and progress, but then physically of going, oh, I need to step outside my comfort zone and test myself and push myself. But not only that, you gain confidence, because look at all this crap you never thought you would do in your life, and now you just crushed it. So it's pushing yourself mentally, physically. And my coaching is the same way. We push you physically, mentally, to help you gain the confidence, step outside your comfort zone, and pinpoint those things. And then we launch you through those experiences to get closer to that goal.
Now, where can everyone find you?
Ooh, good question. You could find me everywhere. Up, down, look, left, right, everywhere. Or probably better on social media would be the better options. You can find me, I'm Spencer Jones on Facebook, or you can do @Jonesin4, that's JONESINFOR, like you're Jonesin for something, you want something. Jonesin4 on Facebook or Instagram are the best ones to find me. I'm on there quite a bit, so you could just message me there, all that good stuff. Those are probably the best spots to find me. Or you can check out my website for coaching, speaking, all that lovely stuff. And it's SpencerMJones.com. So SpencerM Jones, JONES.com. And yeah, you can find me there and see what we do and hang out and chat with me.
All right. Now, I love this. My last question always. All right. You get 1 or 2 lines to impact someone the way they need to be impacted. What are you telling them?
I am telling you that you have the power inside you to live your best life, to live your life to the max. But you need to take responsibility to go after it, to energize yourself, dig it up, and then share it with the world, because you have amazingness and power inside you. Share it out to the world. It's your job, it's your duty to spread amazingness, awesomeness to the rest of the world, and you have it all inside you. Go after it.
Spencer, man, thank you for taking so much time. Literally took like 3 hours. We talked for 1, and we were on there for 2. For coming and speaking to our community and to the people we care about, and to anybody else that checked in. Definitely, if you want to know, like, my big thing is in this space is I love real, right? And that's why before I get super close to anyone or really push what they're doing to a heavy degree to our community, is I want to make sure they're really about what they say they're about. Right? Like, that doesn't mean we have to agree. That means that they're just real about what they say they're about, and they're trying to impact and help people in the way they know how to. And by the time that I've stalked you and made sure and checked up and went back time to make sure that it was kind of consistent, I can tell you're definitely one of the realest people that I see in believing in what they're doing and how they're impacting people. So it was definitely a pleasure having you on and talking with you, man, and giving us that time.
Dude, brother, thank you so much for having me on and being confident in me to share my messages and my thoughts out with your community. It has been awesome. I love being on, and I hope that the people listening, watching, it influences and impacts them in some way, shape, or form. So again, thank you so much for having me here, and I can't wait to chat with you more and keep working together, man.
I'm sure it did. I'm sure it will too in the future, because it'll be out there. Plus, I'm putting it everywhere. Plus, we'll sneak little snippets of this and put everywhere as well. But we do this thing when someone really touches the lives of the UnleashU Now community. We don't necessarily make the sound. That's the main thing. So I won't ask you to make your sound, because that might be bad for audio. But we do a thing called the beard heart that I give people when they killed it, and so you'll have a beard heart today.
Oh, thank you. I can give you the goatee heart. Does that work?
There you go. There you go. Yeah. Hey, listen, I don't know how many beard hearts you got in your life, but you definitely got one today.
Yes. I love it. Thank you so much, brother, and everyone. I appreciate it. Yes.
All right, brother.
My beard heart virginity has been broken. Yay. Look at that. Yes.
Wow. Everybody in the UnleashU Now fam, thank you guys so much for listening and taking the time. Remember, we're always a message away. Peace, love, and happiness. Until the next time, peace. We out. We out. We out. Oh, there we go.